Oh, shoot. It's, hey everybody, it's time for yet another movie review video, but this time it's the moment that you've all been waiting for. This is what the year has been building up to. We're talking about the best movies of 2020. Of course, these are all my opinions. These are all movies that I've seen, so if I left something off that you thought was pretty good in 2020, chances are I probably hadn't seen it, because I tried to watch as many 2020 movies as I could, because, you know, a lot of people say that there weren't as many that came out, or many notable ones that came out, you know, this year because of COVID, you know, compared to the other years. And, you know, I have to sort of agree with that in like a blockbustery kind of sense. The one that, you know, a couple blockbuster-ish movies that came out this year were like, you know, Tenet and Birds of Prey and the latest Wonder Woman film, which I have a lot to say about because I just finished seeing that today. But we're not going to talk about any of those. Well, we might, but we're just going to be talking about the best movies of 2020. We're going to go from 10 to 1. We're going to give you a list, or I'm going to give you a list of my favorites, starting from number 10 and going out to number 1. My least favorite to my favorite. Well, they're all my favorites, but this is just the 10 best films of 2020 that I've seen this year. Now, let's start us off at number 10. Number 10, we got Mank. Directed by David Fincher, Mank follows Herman J. Mankiewicz, a troubled Hollywood screenwriter who's, you know, forced to make, well, not really forced, but he's tasked with making his finest screenplay yet, you know, with the help of Orson Welles, and it's actually, you know, pretty much based on the real life story of Herman J. Mankiewicz, who, of course, wrote, you know, Citizen Kane, that would, you know, later become Citizen Kane. And it's kind of like, you know, the story of how Citizen Kane came to be, and Orson Welles makes an appearance. Well, not actually Orson Welles, but, you know, the person, the persona of him. I'm trying to look for my Citizen Kane movie here, DVD and Blu-ray, but I can't find it right now. But anyways, Mank, I thought was actually pretty good. You know, a lot of people got turned off by this film because you kind of have to know a little bit of the Hollywood lore behind it. If you're not a big, you know, fan of the old, you know, films of the 1930s and 40s and 50s, then you might not see this film as like an impressive feat. But if you're a fan of, like, you know, the old Hollywood noirs and like films like Touch of Evil, which is also an Orson Welles film, and then you'll understand like the kind of angle that they were going for in Mank, because it really personifies everything that, you know, came before it. And it's I love movies about making movies. I love, you know, Cinema Paradiso and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and 8.5. So I love movies like that, and so that's why I think that's why I love Mank. I'm putting that at number 10. All right, number 9, we got Sound of Metal. Riz Ahmed plays brilliant in a brilliant performance. He plays this this guy who's a drummer in a quite a famous band, actually. When all of a sudden, you know, when he's doing his thing, when he's jamming and he's going to all these live shows and stuff like that, all of a sudden he starts to lose his hearing. And I say starts to because it's a slow, gradual process to, you know, him sort of becoming deaf. And it's just kind of like the trials and tribulations of, you know, what it's like to become deaf. And it's really interesting. The sound and mixing and editing on this is certainly impressive, because I don't know what it's like to be, you know, deaf. I'm not deaf yet. Please, I don't want to be. But this is an interesting take on, you know, what a movie is supposed to feel like, because it really kind of puts you in that person's shoes of, you know, what it's like to live, you know, a day in their life. And I thought it was told really great. And Riz Ahmed, you know, is a great actor, and a lot of great performance from him, actually. And I think Sound of Metal, streaming now on Amazon Prime, is worth a watch. So that's why I'm putting it on number 9 on my list. Now, number 8, I'm looking down here, is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Chadwick Boseman's final performance, so very sad, as he plays a, you know, sort of a trumpet player in this jazz band. It's partly based on the real Ma Rainey, and she was a famous jazz singer way back when, and this is kind of like who she is and what she stands for, and This whole film centers around making an album or recording an album, and the stuff that she says to people and how she acts around her different her players and her band and her managers and all this sort of stuff is so interesting, I think. And Viola Davis does a great, fantastic job in this film, as well as Chadwick Boseman. And my God, I can't believe he passed away this year. It's so crazy, and it's like, what a film to go out on. I mean, like, it's so sad to think that he's gone from this world, but he gave us one last final performance that just blows everything he's done out of the water. I mean, it's fantastic. The movie is fantastic. It tells a great story. And I love, music films, and jazz is one of my favorites, genres. So, I don't know, it's just an overall great movie from Netflix, and a lot better than some of the other, Netflix originals that have been coming out. But I think it's definitely worth a watch. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom coming in at number 8. Now, number 7 is another sort of jazz film that came out, Disney Pixar's Soul. Soul follows this jazz teacher, voiced by Jamie Foxx, as he suddenly dies. It's not really spoilers, it's in the trailer. As he suddenly dies and becomes kind of like this hopeless soul, in like this soul world, as he's trying to find his way back to the living. Because he wants to live again, and it's kind of like everything he goes through, and he sort of realizes that being a jazz teacher isn't like his thing. He wants to become a real jazz player in a real jazz band, and once he gets a gig that he always wanted to get, he has to get back to that gig, because if he's dead, he's trying to get back to the world of the living, because he realizes that he's wasted a lot of his life away and he wants to truly start living again. But it's just a really great movie. I just saw it today, this morning, with my whole family, and we really enjoyed it. It's directed by the same guy, Pete Docter, I believe his name is. I might be saying that wrong, but he also directed, Up and Inside Out, and I think even Monsters, Inc. So, great guy, great director for Disney. He made some great movies, actually. I think Soul is one of his best, his very, very best. The animation, I do think that the first half of the movie, up until the soul part after he dies, could have been like kind of like a Roger Rabbit movie, where like it could be played by real people technically, but once you go to the soul world, it could, that could have turned into animation. I don't know, that's just the way my mind would have worked, but animation was fantastic, and Barack Obama listed it as one of his favorite movies on his Instagram, and I was like, ooh, I gotta watch it now when it came out, and I wasn't disappointed at all. So great movie, great music movie. Soul coming in at number 7. Now number 6 is a film that I saw in theaters right when they opened up again in my area. You see, I live in San Diego. And, oh, did I get a message? Oh well. I live in San Diego, so the movie theaters, went down. Everything closed down around, February, March, April-ish, when, COVID started and everything. But they reopened back up in around August or September, and Tenet was one of the main ones to come to theaters. So of course I had to go see it because, I love Christopher Nolan. I love all of his films, Inception, Memento, everything about his films I think are just fantastic. The Dark Knight being probably my favorite one of his, actually. But Tenet is certainly interesting because it plays a lot with time, as a lot of the other films do, but this one's in a different backwardsy way. People are, going through all these different sorts of time loops and time holes and meeting their past selves, and everything's moving backwards, but then like in forward motion, and then people are going back in time. And it's crazy. It's a crazy movie, and a lot of people, I get it that they had a problem with like the sound issue. That it's one of those films people are saying that you need to watch with subtitles. And I don't think that was the case, at least in my theater. I heard it perfectly fine. There was a few parts that were a little iffy, and Nolan doesn't really go back to explain anything. You kind of have to just, hopefully you get it the first time you watch it, because he's not going to go back to explain like a little plot point or anything. But it's an interesting film. I didn't have a problem with the sound, okay? It sounded perfectly fine to me. I mean, my sister, who's like 5 years younger than me, she got it more than I did. She was like, I understand it. And I was like, what? I didn't get the ending. She had to explain it to me. The ending, I must have missed something. But, she explained it to me. So if my little sister can get it, then so can you. It's one of those films you got to think about a little bit. It's not one of those, popcorn flicks like the the Dark Knight movies, let's just say, that are more popcorny than, you know, Inception or Memento. Gosh, those are the only films I could think of Nolan. I know he's done more, I know I've seen more, but those are the ones that just keep popping in my head. So Tenet, very good, comes in at number 6. Is it a must-watch? I think so, if you're a fan of Nolan especially. Alright, number 5, we have The Trial of the Chicago 7. Chicago Central. Aaron Sorkin directs an all-star cast in this true story that follows 7 rights activists as they're put on trial for starting massive riots against the Vietnam War. I can easily say that, this film is definitely one of the best of 2020 because it's so entertaining, it's so interesting, and, knowing in the back of your head that it is real, this stuff actually did happen, or is so, like, mind-blowing because, 2020 has definitely been a year of, activists and, riots and all this sorts of crazy stuff. So when a film comes out like this, you're kind of, taken back a little bit and be like, wow, all this stuff was happening way before, our time. And you might be saying, well, duh, Xander, of course stuff happened before 2020. And I know this, but I'm just saying that it's a great, well-rounded movie. I think Sacha Baron Cohen did a fantastic job in this film. And I think that he definitely deserves at least a nomination for Best Supporting Actor from the Academy. He did great in Borat. But, this is where he truly shines. Trial of the Chicago 7, let me look back at my list here, sorry. It comes in at number 5, and we're going to be talking about number 4 right now. Number 4 is Black Bear. Black Bear follows Aubrey Plaza, or her character, as a kind of like a distressed film star, film director, as she kind of like goes away to this cabin in the woods, let's just say, to clear her mind off some things as she's renting it out for a couple days. 2 other people are also staying there as well. Sorry, I can't speak today. And things start to take a sudden turn. There's lots of twists, there's lots of turns in this. And if you've seen the trailer, then they give away a pretty big one, but, I didn't even see the trailer. I saw the poster, and I saw Aubrey Plaza, and I was like, I'm gonna watch it. So there's a twist in there that like came out of nowhere for me. I don't want to spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it. It's in the trailer, but I'm not gonna spoil it. I saw the trailer after I saw the movie, which is a strange thing to do. But sometimes I don't usually like to watch the trailers because trailers give away way too much these days. There's like trailers that are like 2, 3, even 4 minutes long, and I'm like, what the heck? Why are you showing me this much, man? Just show me like 45 seconds to a minute 30, and we'll be good. We'll be square. Don't give away anything too important. And if you watch the trailer for Black Bear, I think they'll give away some pretty important stuff. So thank God I didn't. Aubrey Plaza gives one of, if not the best, performance I've seen by an actress all year, and I love Aubrey Plaza and everything that she's done. I think she's a great actress, but this is where she truly shines, in this one right here, Black Bear, 2020. I think there's another movie in 2020 that came out with the same title of Black Bear, so that's kind of interesting, but I didn't see that other one. I saw this one. But anyways, yes, Black Bear lands at number 4. It was at number 1 for a long time until I saw these other 3 that we're going to talk about, and I kind of blew it out of the water just a little bit. But anyways, number 3 we're getting to right now, Uncle Frank. Uncle Frank stars Paul Bettany as a queer man in the 1960s who's having trouble, coming out in front of his friends and his family. And if he does, when he does, you'll have to see, you'll have to find out. But I think Uncle Frank is definitely one of the best films of 2020. Paul Bettany, man, gosh, what an actor. Of course, I've seen him in some other things that I can't quite remember. But, everybody knows him as, Vision from the Marvel movies and stuff like that. But actually, he's really a terrific actor, especially in this one. He gives out, some gut-wrenching lines of dialogue in here, and it's a fun movie at times, and it's a sad movie at times because of how the way people see gender differently as they did back then as they do now, and it's not a true story, but it certainly feels like it would be, or something that happens like that. It could have really happened back then in the 1960s and 70s. So it really is, it's not a hard film to watch, but at least in my eyes it's not, because but I don't know, I just really loved it. It's up there, definitely. That's why I put it at number 3. And if you haven't really heard of it or seen it, I think, I've said this so many times, I feel like, but it's definitely worth a watch, okay? Unlike this one up there, it's definitely worth a watch. Alright, we're going to get down to number 2. Okay, we're now getting to the final 2 films. The final 2 that I think are the best of the entire 2020. And we saved these 2 last ones, the best for last, as they say. And we're making a list, you kind of have to. Alright, number 2 is Another Round. Another Round stars Mads Mikkelsen as a teacher who decides to experiment with day drinking along with his couple of teacher buddies in hopes of seeing the world in a new light, in hopes of raising their intelligence and their awareness. They decide to experiment with day drinking. Basically, this film is kind of like a celebration of alcohol. It shows the bad effects of alcohol, of course, really bad effects. Gosh, this film gets deep. But it also shows the good effects of it as well, you know, just kind of having fun with life and just saying, you know, sometimes it's okay to drink a little bit. Okay, they drink a lot in this film. Another Round is certainly inspiring in a way to do different things and be different. And that's I had this film at number 1 of my list, but there's a certain film that I talked about in a previous video of mine that kind of takes the cake. So Another Round. Oh God, excuse me. Oh God, excuse me. Great little film that's around in the indie circuit today. You know, didn't really come to too many big name theaters or drive-ins, at least in my area. So I had to watch it online. But you know, gosh, great movie. Mads Mikkelsen. There's been some really good performances in 2020 this year that I think are just getting overlooked by people saying, you know, no movies came out in 2020. We didn't have Dune, or we didn't have Godzilla vs. Kong, which, you know, I can't wait for those movies. That's why now I can't wait for those. But there's lots of great, you know, little indie productions that came out this year, and I feel like all of these films that I've listed today are all kind of, you know, indie films. Oh, before we go to number 1, I want to give some, there we go. Before we go to number 1, I want to list some honorable mentions that, you know, didn't quite make it to the top 10, but were very, very close. Palm Springs with Andy Samberg on Hulu. It kind of reminds me of Groundhog Day. I think that's why I like it so much. But that's an honorable mention. Great movie. Kajillionaire. It tells the story about a pickpocketing family as they go from you know, place to place, town to town, trying to just make their way, make their living off of basically taking from other people. It's a very interesting movie. Borat, subsequent movie film / Baron Cohen, returns as Borat, as probably the whole world knows by now. In a very, very controversial movie that I absolutely loved. I love his style of humor. I love Bruno. I love all of his wacky and wild characters. The King of Staten Island was really, really good. It's surprising because, you know, you see Pete Davidson on SNL and he's just kind of like this funny man. But if you actually look into his life and his personal issues, the film kind of taps into some of that and it goes really deep. He's basically playing himself in this movie. But at number 1, we have, that was supposed to be a drum roll, The Wolf House. Now, I went really in depth on this film in a previous video of mine. If you want to see it, it'll either come up somewhere or link in the description or something. It's going to be there. But if you want to see me really go in depth on why I think Wolf House is the best movie and most underrated film of 2020, and give that video a good old watch, because it really is probably one of the most mind-blowing films that I have ever seen. And I don't say that very much because films these days, they don't really give me a huge mind blow. There's films of the past that I'm like, oh my god. You know, come and see anything by Fellini or Bergman or David Lynch. House. I'm trying to look at all my movies over here. The Red Shoes. That's a mind-blowing one. There's a few films out there that are just like, oh my gosh, what did I just see? You kind of have to like think about it for a while and be like, whoa, holy moly. But basically, The Wolf House is definitely one of those. If you want to see me talk about it, of course, just hit that video. But I think that's pretty much it. Those are my top 10 movies of 2020. Sorry this video was probably way too long and not too informative. But that's pretty much it. I'm going to be doing a worst movies of 2020 very, very soon. And if you want to see that, well then just stick around. It should be uploaded in a very few days. Or maybe it's already uploaded. I mean, you probably have seen this maybe in 5 years' time. You're looking at this video. Who knows? But anyways, don't forget to smash that flippin' like button.